Mika Zibanejad falls on his face, and the Rangers lose in overtime to the Leafs. We are calling out Mika, Fox, and Panarin for a rough game-ending sequence.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1404 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Schick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So you know what? Let's just go ahead. Let's not waste a single second here. Dive right into what was a pretty brutal game-ending sequence for the Rangers in overtime against the Toronto Maple Leafs. We can pretty much pick apart the entire overtime period because it lasted for less than a minute, but we're going to break this down in every excruciating detail because we all have to go through this together. It's a really rough ending for this game for the Rangers, who now lose their third in a row. And yeah, it was an overtime and you get a point, but it's still 3 straight losses. And you look at the way the Rangers started the overtime, this is not the trio that I was expecting to be out there. They go with JT Miller. I mean, I expected JT, but they go with Miller, they go with Gavrikov, and they go with Lafreniere. Although it kind of made sense after the Rangers won the faceoff, because JT won the faceoff, pretty clean, had to fight for it a little bit, but got it back to Gavrikov. And then Gavrikov took his leave. Adam Fox jumped onto the ice in place of Gavrikov. So what it seems like they were doing there is if they lost the faceoff, Gavrikov was going to stay out there, for defensive purposes. And if they won the faceoff, which they did, he would leave in short order to make room for Adam Fox. So that's pretty much what happened. But then you have the game-ending sequence, and it was not a good one for the Rangers. The Rangers had possession of the puck for the entire overtime period. And I realize that's not an extraordinarily long amount of time because this only lasted 58 seconds, but they had the puck. They're in control. You got Panarin going over the blue line on the left side. He passes to his right to Mika Zibanejad. Mika had just jumped off the bench and onto the ice, and here goes Mika. He's about to win this game, and nope, he whiffs on his shot and falls down to the ice, and the Leafs take it. They go the other way. They have a 3-on-1. A little pitch and catch, Matthews to Nylander, back to Matthews for the tip-in goal. And just like that, the Leafs beat the Rangers 2-1 in overtime. But we're basically just scratching the surface of this play. Like I said, this whole sequence just begs for a deeper dive, and that's what we're going to do right now. Let's start actually with Adam Fox. What was this? What was he doing on this play? I realize he's in a difficult position here. It's a 3-on-1 against some of Toronto's best players. It's obviously a very talented team. And it's not an enviable position to be in where Adam Fox found himself here. But he could have done better than this. I mean, he probably couldn't have played this a whole lot worse than he did when you look at everything that happened here. Because you've got the Leafs breaking out 3-on-1. And one of their players actually went right for the bench. So for all intents and purposes, it was basically a 2-on-1. And, I used to really give Fox a lot of props for the way he defended on-man rushes and the way he specifically defended 2-on-1s. But in this sequence, that was nowhere to be found. The old slide across your stomach on the ice play. That's what we got from Adam Fox on this. Basically just took himself right out of the play, and a 2-on-1 becomes a 2-on-none. And when you've got Nylander and Matthews essentially having, in a roundabout way, a 2-on-none, they're going to finish more often than not. And that's obviously exactly what happened here. But I just don't understand what Fox was doing here. It's funny. I was going to do an episode, and we still might do this, an episode where we look at 10 things about the Rangers that have changed this season from last season and changed for the better. And one of the things that I was going to put on this list, and probably still will, would be that we're not seeing nearly as much of these Ranger defensemen sliding across the ice on their stomachs. Now, that is a play. It's a tactic that can work. It can make sense in certain situations. But when you're out there and there's all this open ice for guys like Nylander and Matthews to operate, I don't think that's the time to do it. And when you watch the way that Nylander reacted to Fox going down to the ice, I mean, he barely even flinched. He barely even had to do anything. Now, he did have to delay for a second, and he pulled the puck back really quickly to essentially just let Adam Fox slide out of his way before passing over to Matthews for the tip-in goal. But Nylander can do this in his sleep. Again, these are two very skilled players, and it's a 2-on-1. I mean, that's dangerous enough, but when you slide across the ice and take yourself out of the play, and it's a 2-on-none, I mean, it's basically game. And Igor was fantastic in this game, like he's been all season. Would have been extraordinarily difficult to stop this scoring opportunity that the Leafs had here. And again, it was due in large part to Adam Fox basically just taking himself completely out of the play. But he wasn't the only one at fault on this game-winning goal for the Leafs. We now need to shift our attention to the two Ranger forwards that were on the ice here, Mika Zibanejad and Artemi Panarin. I already mentioned how Mika was, just jumping off the bench. He's got a golden chance to win this game. And the vibes right now would be just infinitely better if that had been what happened. But obviously that didn't happen. But, you got Panarin over the left side. He finds Mika. He's going to get a really good shot on net here. If nothing else, he's going to have a good opportunity. You've got Stolarz. Now, Stolarz was great in this game, don't get me wrong, but he's got to move quickly from his right to his left. Mika's a sniper. Mika's been shooting the puck, and he's going to end this game. He did end this game, just not in the way that we would like, because obviously he fell down to the ice, and, again, the Leafs went the other way and they scored. But the issue that I take, even more so than him falling down, and I throw Panarin into this as well, it's really both of them. I just don't think they got back quickly enough, given the situation that the Rangers were in, given the fact that the Leafs are breaking out, and given the fact that this was not due to these guys being gassed at the end of a long shift during 3-on-3 overtime. Think about it. This game ended just 58 seconds into the overtime period. That's not like a dramatically long shift. And on top of that, neither one of these guys were out there for the entirety of those 58 seconds. Mika, he had just jumped onto the ice. He had just gotten out there and then fell down, and the Leafs went the other way. And Panarin, he wasn't out there at the start of the overtime period. He got out there, relatively quickly in the overtime, but it's not like he was at the end of a, minute and 45-second shift here. He was pretty fresh himself. Now, they did both initially hustle to get back on defense, but by the time that they got to the Ranger blue line, they both, you can see it, go watch the replay, they both stop moving their legs. And this is game on the line situation here. You have to do everything you possibly can to make sure that they don't score. And with Panarin, he had a great opportunity, I thought, to make a play here while the Leafs were setting up this game-winning goal. Fox goes down to the ice. He slides on his stomach, takes himself out of the play. That's obviously not ideal for anybody. But by this point, Panarin had gotten close enough where, do something here. I'm not usually a fan of guys going down to the ice and taking themselves out of the play like we just talked about with Fox. But if you're Panarin, lay out. Try to, break up that pass somehow. Panarin got back, and again, he stops moving his legs. Even with that being the case, he still had a chance. I thought he was pretty close to Nylander. He could have, at least extended his stick, try to deflect the pass, do something. You got to give me more. You got to give all of us more than what we got from Mika and Panarin here. You got to back check a little bit harder than this, and you got to sell out and do everything you possibly can to prevent this scoring opportunity. I know Igor's been awesome. You can't always rely on him to stand on his head and save the day. And obviously, even Igor wasn't going to keep this puck out of the net in this situation here. But, again, you look at the three players that are on the ice here. It's Fox, it's Panarin, and it's Mika. These are, I think, now the three longest tenured players on the New York Rangers, unless I'm forgetting anybody off the top of my head here. These are your three healthy alternate captains. It's time to step up in crunch time here. This team has been up against it, and I think they've mostly been playing good hockey, but they just haven't been able to finish. You're looking for your leaders to step up big in a spot like this, to step up clutch. Scoring the game-winning goal would be nice, but if nothing else, at least bust it a little bit more to get back on the back check, to get back there and try to break up the opportunity that the Leafs are going to create here. The second that Mika gave up the puck and the second the Leafs picked it up, at the very least, the Leafs are going to have a golden scoring chance here. And if we can see that clear as day watching on TV, I got to believe Panarin and Mika can see this too. And I don't know. It's not like they completely dogged it. Initially I thought they took off pretty hard trying to get back into the Rangers zone, but I didn't see enough at the end there. And, I realize, maybe they don't want to keep skating so hard that they go right by, but that's not good enough. You got to, if you're Panarin there, you got to, body Nylander or reach out with your stick or dive across the ice, do something to sell out in a situation during the game that requires you to do that. This is crunch time here. It's overtime, and you got to try to do everything you possibly can to keep that puck out of your net. And I just don't know that Panarin and Mika on this play did that. You'll see worse examples of non-hustle than this, but you'll certainly see better examples of hustle than this as well. And you look at these three players in general right now, Panarin's out there in this game getting double shifted on the power play. Why? Why is he being double shifted? I realize part of the reason for this is you're looking for offense and the Rangers are desperate. And when it comes to filling out the 2 power play units, they don't really have a ton of options. But be that as it may, if you're going to double shift somebody right now, I don't think it should be Panarin. I mean, honestly, I would go with Mika over Panarin right now. He's at least shooting the puck, or maybe JT Miller. Obviously, he's your leader, and he's a threat, obviously, to score on the power play as well. I haven't seen anything from Panarin so far this season that tells me that he needs to be out there for all 2 minutes of every power play. I'm sorry, I just haven't. And all I've really seen Panarin do this year when it comes to offense is basically just skate around in a circle in the offensive zone. And with Panarin, you don't mind him holding onto the puck for, those extra couple of seconds there, because obviously he's very talented and he sees the ice very well. And you figure that by him doing this, he's looking to open up a passing lane and he's going to put it right on the tape for one of his teammates. But I don't know, when you're not scoring goals and you have to watch this every game, him just kind of skating around in a circle, it does start to get old a little bit, especially when he's not otherwise producing. And then with Mika, I mean, look, he probably deserves better than 1 goal and no assists in these 6 games here. But again, this is crunch time here. And one of your leaders, the longest tenured players on the Rangers, is whiffing on a shot and falling down. And I think at least somewhat questionable hustle on the back check. Again, you'll see worse examples than this as far as a lack of hustle, but it wasn't good. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. And then Fox, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, has Adam Fox had like a wow play thus far this season? I realize nobody is scoring right now and everybody's in this together. And Fox actually does have a couple of goals to start the year, and that's great. Maybe I'm being a little bit too tough on Adam Fox in the heat of the moment here. But I don't know, man. When the team is struggling like this to score goals, you look to your leaders, you look to your big-time scores, and right now they're just not getting it done. And they didn't get it done at the most important time, the overtime period against Toronto on this night, which obviously led to a loss for the Rangers. So in just a minute, where I keep everything rolling, we're going to talk about if it's time to call up one of the young prospects that the Rangers have at their disposal, one of the young forward prospects, to try to jumpstart, spark this offense a little bit. We'll discuss that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in. The app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Gametime is the best because it's got every feature you could possibly want. The best one, or one of the best ones, is the panoramic seat view, where you can basically pick your seats and then see a very clear visual of what you're going to be seeing when you attend the game, when you attend the concert, when you attend your special event, whatever it might be. One of the best features of any ticketing website that I have ever encountered, and highly recommend it for all of you as well, because you certainly want to know what you're in for before you buy the tickets. And you can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Big shout out to the everydayers. As always, thank you guys so much for supporting this podcast through thick and thin, all the ups and downs of Ranger hockey. Rangers going to be back in action on Saturday in Montreal against the Canadiens at 7 p.m. Whatever happens there, we'll obviously break it down in the next episode of Locked On New York Rangers. But for right now, to kind of stay on the topic of this game, and more specifically the fallout of this game, I propose the question to all of you: is it time to call up one of the young Ranger prospects from the Hartford Wolfpack and try to spark this team? Now, it's kind of a complicated question right now, and I think there's a strong case to be made both ways. We're going to kind of look at it from both angles here. I don't feel like the Rangers need a spark in terms of energy, in terms of jump, in terms of their effort level, which is a very, 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 very welcome change from what we saw last season. The compete level is there. The scoring chances are there. The thing that's killing this team right now is they cannot finish. That is the one thing that is very seemingly holding this entire team back right now, and obviously resulting in a lot of losses to start the season. But with that in mind, I propose again the question: is it time to call up one of the big three. And when I say one of the big three, I'm talking about Berard or Gabe Perreault or Brian Hoffman. Now, we'll start with Hoffman. And if I'm being honest, looking at the three options here, because I mean, you could make a case for somebody else, I guess, but if you're really looking for a spark, it would be one of these three forwards. Hoffman would be my last choice of the three. And as many of you know, and we talked about it on here during a YouTube short yesterday, Hoffman's name has recently come up in trade talk for the New York Rangers. There was a report from Elliot Friedman that it sounds like the Rangers, I don't know if they're like actively shopping him, and it wasn't like too detailed of a report, but this might just be the information that Friedman has at this time. But it does sound like the Rangers are at least open for business. You know, they will hear you out if you come to them with an offer for Brian Hoffman. Now, again, he would be my least choice of the three to be called up because I just don't think he looked very good in the preseason or really the rookie series either. The rookie series, he looked okay, but not so much the preseason, and hasn't really produced in the past when he's been up for the Rangers. The one reason why I think you could make a case for Brian Hoffman, well, two, I guess. First of all, he does play the straight line FU style that this Ranger team is going for. Secondly, and I think even more notably, is that you could look at this as a true blue, bona fide sink or swim promotion for Brian Hoffman. Get out there and show us what we can do. We've been down on you recently. You need to go out there and show us why we're wrong and show us why you really are the player that we thought we were getting when we took you with the, what was it, like the 16th pick in the draft? It was a mid first round pick for Brian Hoffman 4 years ago when the Rangers drafted him. It is a true sink or swim moment. And here's the kicker and a reason why you can at least consider this if you're the Rangers. In recent seasons, part of the issue when it comes to their young forwards, their prospect forwards, is that there doesn't really seem to be a whole ton of room for these guys when it comes to fitting them into the top six and or the top power play unit and or even the second power play unit, right? There's no such issues right now with the Rangers when it comes to calling up one of these guys, specifically Brian Hoffman. So when I say sink or swim, I mean that very, very literally. Like you throw him into a top six role, you move Sheary out of there. I think Sheary's been okay, but you know what? He's not going to get top billing over one of the Ranger, young prospects. So you move Sheary out of the top six, you put Brian Hoffman on that line, presumably with Cooley and JT Miller, or however you want to do it. I mean, that is a hard-nosed, hard-hitting line right there. You could definitely go with that, and it's truly sink or swim time. You are in a top six role. You will be given top 6 minutes, and you're going to get every opportunity to produce at the NHL level. And if you do it, great. And if you don't, that might be your last chance. I think that works. I think that works for Brian Hoffman. I'm almost talking myself into it. I mean, I said that he's my third choice of the three to be called up here, but if you really want to finally, at long last, find out what you've got, this might be the opportunity to do it. Just throw him out there, and whatever happens, happens, and you react accordingly. But there would be no more excuses because he would be in a prominent role. And like I said, if you were to call up Hoffman, there's really no reason not to put him into a role like that. Because, again, it's Connor Sheary right now, who's your sixth of the top 6, forwards that are out there. Okay, another option, and this is my second favorite pick of the three here, would be calling up Gabe Perreault. I've been really against the idea of rushing Gabe Perreault to the NHL, and I realize he played a handful of games last year, 5 games at the end of the season for the New York Rangers, but we've seen in the past that the Rangers, when it comes to their development, it's been very hit or miss at best, and there have been multiple examples over the years of the Rangers seemingly rushing these guys to the NHL, maybe before they were ultimately ready for that kind of spotlight and that obviously level of play and that level of competition. But there are a couple of things now that have me on the fence when it comes to maybe rethinking this, and maybe it is time to promote Gabe Perreault to the NHL. First of all, you got the injury to Vincent Trocheck. That obviously causes a ripple effect. This is somebody that's been here the last couple of seasons, been one of the more productive New York Ranger forwards, and somebody who they were counting on to play obviously a big role for this team this season. Trocheck was recently placed on LTIR, which means he has to miss a minimum of 10 games and 24 days before he's eligible to come back into the lineup. So they're not getting Trocheck back anytime soon. And that's a best case scenario, 10 games and 24 days. So with that being the case, and I realize Trocheck is a center and Perreault's obviously a winger, but the bottom line, you lost one of your best forwards. You lost one of your most dangerous players when it comes to producing offense in Vincent Trocheck. you have to figure out a way to replace him. And I think you have to aim a little bit higher than Connor Sheary or Juuso Parssinen or Johnny Brodzinski. Go with the guy with the most upside. And to me, that would be Gabe Perreault in terms of, the Ranger prospects and the guy that could really step in here and spark this team and really make a big time impact. So look, again, it's the same thing with Othman. It applies here for Perreault, and it's going to apply for Berard in just a second. The top 6 is ripe for the taking for any of these guys. If you were to call up one of them, you could put them right into the top 6, and no one would bat an eye. I don't think any of us would have any issue with that whatsoever if you were to call up one of them and throw them right into the top 6. But my top choice right now, I'm going to go with Brett Berard. And part of the reason for that, couple of reasons. I mean, he's the one that seems the most NHL ready of the three. He and Othman have played about the same amount in the NHL, but obviously Berard has had more success and he scored some goals here and there, and he's had some moments. And I just feel like Berard looks like he belongs pretty much every time he's been in the NHL thus far. But something else that I really like about Berard, and one of the reasons why I really favor him being the guy to get the call up here, is because he's got some finish to his game. And when you look at the Rangers right now, that's the biggest thing that they are missing. That's the aspect of the sport right now that is causing them the most issues, that is causing them to lose all these games. The Rangers are playing well in every other aspect. Point to me any other aspect of this Ranger team right now that's like really, really making you worry. I'm not talking about like one player. I mean, you could say maybe the power play, they're like 2 for the season, but I feel like that's hand in hand with the lack of finish. I mean, it's just different because you have 5 guys on the ice and they have 4, but that's all part of the same overall overlapping issue here, that they can't finish their scoring opportunities. Other than that, this team isn't really doing anything that like really makes me that worried or that concerned, but they got to start finishing some of these opportunities. Eventually, we're all going to get tired of hearing, well, they played well. I mean, I'm tired of having to say it. This is basically what I've said for like 3 straight episodes now, or at least 3 straight game episodes, that they're playing well, but they're just not finishing their chances. And Berard has a chance to come up, spark this team, give them a little energy. He plays with a lot of energy, does Brett Berard. He's very aggressive on the forecheck. He's out there battling for loose pucks. This is somebody that can, obviously breathe a little life into the team. Not that they're lacking in life, but he's also somebody that can finish the scoring opportunity. So Berard is my top choice, at least right now. And again, you look at the alternatives for this team, the veteran role players. I know Parssinen scored a goal in this game, and good on him. He, snapped the Rangers out of their seemingly season-long scoreless streak with that nice redirection off the shot by Braden Schneider. And again, good for him for doing that. But you look at guys like Parssinen and Brodzinski and Radish and Sheary, and it's hard to see any of them really giving you much more than what they've given you thus far in terms of offense and really just in terms of noticeability. I mean, other than the goal by Parson, didn't really see a whole lot of him last night. Brodzinski, when he's been in there, haven't seen a whole lot from him. Radish is invisible. Sheary is the one of the bunch that I feel like he is at least somewhat noticeable. He's a very good skater, very elusive. He had a chance to pick up a primary assist on a really nice pass in this game, and unfortunately, it just didn't go anywhere because the Rangers can't finish their scoring chances. But again, none of these guys seem like the long-term answer or potentially even the short-term answer. So I think you need to call up one of these kids, and my vote for all the reasons that I just mentioned would be Brett Berard. Bottom line, this team needs goals. He can help you in that area, and I'm not looking for some of those depth forwards to really make much of an impact in said area. But we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to talk a little bit about a lineup decision. Scott Morrow did not play in this game despite being called up to the New York Rangers earlier in the day. Just kind of bizarre. I mean, you figure if you're going to call up one of your prospects, he's going to play, but we'll discuss all that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is the best because it's got you covered no matter how you like to bet. Whether you're into player props or you like to do some of those same game parlays, or you like to bet for your team, or you like to bet against your team, or you've got a certain feeling or a certain hunch about this game or this player or that player, they've got you covered and they've got something for you. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers by talking a little bit about Scott Morrow and why he was called up and why he didn't end up playing in this game. First of all, as far as the reason for the call-up at this time, Will Borgen was dealing with an injury, and the Rangers didn't know that he was going to play. Per Mike Sullivan, it sounded like it was going to be a true game time decision. Borgen was out there skating around before the game, and he ultimately did play in this game. So that's part of the reason why you call up Scott Morrow. But to me, whether Borgen plays or not, and of course, again, he did play in this game, I feel like Morrow just should have been out there because you're in a situation now with the Rangers where this guy is, after the K'Andre Miller trade, this guy is one of your better prospects. I mean, I would say certainly in the top 5. I think just about everybody agrees with that. And he's somebody that, whether it's with the Rangers, whether it's with the Hartford Wolfpack, he's somebody that needs to be in the lineup. He's somebody that needs to be playing hockey. Now, on one hand, let's not overdo it, right? I say that to myself as much as anybody else. But him not playing in this one game, him being a healthy scratch for this one game, it's not the end of Scott Morrow's career. It's not the end of the world. And I guess having him watch one game from the press box isn't the worst thing ever. I mean, it's not what I would have done. To me, if he's getting called up, he should be right out there playing hockey, basically just throw him in and see what he can do. That obviously did not happen. Our first clue, honestly, that Morrow wasn't going to play in this game actually occurred during practice, because during practice, they still had Braden Schneider out there on the second power play unit. And that was surprising to me because Morrow, I mean, that's his MO. He's an offensive defenseman. That's what he can bring to the table. There's other areas of his game that maybe need a little bit of work, but this is somebody that can move the puck. This is somebody that's a good skater. This is somebody that's very mobile. This is somebody that sees the ice very well and can make some good passes. And that seems tailor-made for him to play on the power play. Now, when I saw Schneider was going to still be on the second power play, I thought, okay, well, it's his first game, Scott Morrow, that is. It's his first game playing with the Rangers in the NHL. And maybe it's a situation where they just don't want to put too much on his plate. They don't want to overwhelm him for his first game with the Rangers. He'll just be out there playing 5v5 and, we'll take it from there moving forward. But no, he didn't even play at all. And that's where I take issue. I think, if you're calling up Morrow, he should be in the lineup. I mean, is Urho Vakanainen played? He was fine in this game. I didn't see any glaring mistakes from Vakanainen in this game. But has he played so well? Is he so indispensable that you can't put Scott Morrow into the lineup? And on top of everything I just said, it goes back to what we've been talking about pretty much the entire episode, the Rangers' inability to score goals, the Rangers' inability to finish their scoring chances. As we just mentioned with Morrow, his MO, his calling card, he is an offensive defenseman. That is the strength of his game. There's other areas that are still coming along. Why then would you not put him into the lineup when you're struggling to finish scoring chances? And I know that with Morrow, he's going to be more of an assist guy than a goal guy. I get that. But you know what? You need offense any way you can get it. And I think putting Morrow into the lineup probably would have helped you. Now, do the Rangers win this game if Scott Morrow is out there? It probably ends up the same way that this game did. He'd probably be playing third pair minutes, and who's to say if he would even be on the second power play unit or not? Probably not, because they didn't give him any reps there during practice. But I don't know. I mean, to me, all these are reasons why Scott Morrow should have been in the lineup. Another little piece of breaking news that dropped right before I hit record here is that Connor Mackey has been sent down to the Hartford Wolfpack. So he's out of the picture. It looks like Borgen is going to be okay. Susie is still injured. So as things stand right now, technically Morrow, I guess, should be viewed as the number 7 defenseman, but that's not the way this can go moving forward. I really, really hope that what's going on here is they just want to have Morrow watch one game and put him into the next one, because going forward for the foreseeable future, however many games this is going to be, with Morrow rotting away in the press box, that doesn't work for me. I think he's got to be in there for the next game, and he's got to be in there for Urho Vakanainen, not Matthew Robertson. Robertson continues to play well, continues to, I would say, exceed expectations. When you look at this this young season here, I think that's been one of the more fun, more intriguing storylines, is just the steady, consistent play of Matthew Robertson. It sounds like, going by his commentary, Dave Maloney has been very impressed by Robertson. There was a play in this game where, he bodied his guy, just ran him into the boards in the corner. Not like a vicious hit or anything like that, but just a good, solid, steady defensive play by Robertson. So for me, again, Morrow, you need more offense. He has a chance to provide it for you. You're not scoring any goals. He has a chance to maybe make that happen, either by scoring himself or setting up one of his teammates with a really nice pass. So for all those reasons, and just the very simple fact that you don't want one of your best prospects rotting away in the press box night in and night out, I got to see Morrow in the game. on Saturday night in Montreal against the Canadiens. Fingers crossed that ends up being what happens, but we will see. You never can say for sure when it comes to this Ranger team. But we'll call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, @jchik17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.